guys, let's do the daily update. We've had another sell off here on Bitcoin. We got below this support at 11,000 to 11,200. We didn't quite get the bounce up to the weekly resistance that we came out of here. Yesterday I was looking at potentially shorting if we were to bounce up to the point 0.5 up here. We didn't even get to the weekly resistance before we rolled over and went to the monthly support down here. So this is definitely looking pretty weak for Bitcoin. The monthly support has been wicked into so far, which kind of lines up with this demand zone back here where we had these wicks that would come down into here. And if you pull a fib on this, and this is what I'm looking at as well, if you pull a fib like from the most recent low before we had this really big run up, and I pull it to the absolute high here, we come down to the 0.5, which just happens to confluently line up with the monthly support. So that was a confluent area that we would get some kind of reaction out of, and not to mention the demand that I was talking about right here that we've wigged into before. So at this point, if I go down to like a lower time frame, we've come out of this so far, holding up okay, but this is such a strong sell-off. I don't know that I would be most inclined to be shorting the retest of this support right here, that is now resistance, and I would be looking at something like this. So if we get a move up, and I'm going to tighten this, I'm actually going to, let me take this off, and I'll just put our zone right here at the 0.5. If we get up to that, however this might play out that we can get up to there, I would be looking for, some kind of short reaction out of there, and potentially, it wicks, whoops, potentially it gets up to the 618 or something like that. But it's the same logic that I had before, where this was a 707. You see that we held to the tick there. The algorithms defended that. We came down sharply. We never got the reaction up to a 0.5 of that move, but now we could get that reaction up to the 0.5618 of this move. So this is the next logical area I'd be looking at, because we flipped such a strong support to resistance here. You see, like, that was support all through here, and now that we've flipped that, this is going to be resistance on the way up, and it just confluently lines up with our fib levels. So I'll be looking at a short now right here, for if we get up to that. I'm going to be looking to see what kind of structure we put in right now, but so far the green candle is telling me we could have some kind of reversal up to this resistance right here, and I'd be looking to short it down, probably back to the monthly support, because it's at that 0.5 confluently, so I wouldn't want to try to get too greedy, although I'm going to back out here in a second and try to see what kind of count we can put on this for a higher time frame. But lower time frame, this is what I'm looking for, shorting between 10,000 or 11,070 and 11,160, somewhere in there. Closer to 11,160 is even better, because you're getting to the bottom of that wick. You're getting right at the 618. It's kind of confluent right there. So ideally, closer to 11,160, the better the entry for a short. And if I was putting if I'm getting a trade plan for this, I'd be getting in at the 0.5 just to be conservative. I would target the monthly support, and I would have my stop loss above the 707, somewhere in there. And so you got about a one and a half to one risk to reward when we're in such a strong downtrend. The risk to reward, being 1.5 to 1 would be okay, because your odds are going to be, your win rate's going to be higher when you're in such a strong downtrend. When you're just going with the trend and you're shorting at resistance, then your win rate's going to be much higher. And we could do 1 to 1 as well if we wanted to be a little more conservative. We just have to be right more than 50% of the time. So in this case, I would think we would be, our win rate here, where we would roll over and get a reaction back down, we would be right more than 50% of the time. And so that's what I'm looking at. And obviously, if we thought it would go deeper down to lower 10,000s and we're going to put more of a correction in, then we could we could have a lower target there. But for me, I would be a little more conservative and either go for a 1-to-1 here or to the monthly support. I think that the win rate would be quite high at this point because of the confluence of these fib levels and that resistance region right there. So that's what I'm looking at. Let me take this off. I'm gonna go back out to like an 8 hour. We'll see what kind of structure we could put on this. Um, it's kind of hard to determine what we're doing here. You know, originally I was saying that this. Let me take this off. That this could be A, B, and we thought this could be the C to end here, and we'd come up and running flat and go to 14,000. Well, now we're rolling over. So is this going to be still a C, just a very drawn out expanded flat, to where we have to do something more like this? Put in some kind of ending diagonal like this down for a C. And so if that was the case, then we would expect something kind of like this, where we could go sideways, come back down, bounce, and then finally come out of this to where, let me put this trend line on here, kind of like that. So it looks something kind of like this, where we hold resistance right here, we never get it back above that, and then we drop. We go below monthly support, and we might even come down to our 618 right here. Even 618 to 707, really. We could come down to that, wick down into that for this C wave to end before going higher. So that's a possibility. This is a very drawn out correction if this is going to be a fifth wave or a four wave. You know, that's how I was looking at this before. That would be very, very drawn out. I don't think that that is likely at this point. Now that this has taken so much time, that's making me think that the top could be in for a while, but I don't necessarily have to be targeting higher highs whenever I'm getting in here. Whenever I like to get in when we're in such a strong trend, especially what we've had this year, when you have strong sell-offs, especially whatever this is. Let's see, if we go from the absolute highs here, if we were to go down to the 618, you know, that's like a 20% drop. And if we're looking at just from this drop right here, if we go down here in a hurry, that's a 15% drop. So the quicker that we make this drop and we go into these support levels, you can see how this fib levels, the 707 anyway, and the 618 kind of lines up with previous resistance. Now it's support. So this zone down here would be, if we were to not get back above this resistance, which I wouldn't expect we would, that's why I would want to short right there, then I would be looking for this zone right here, really between 10,300 and 10,000, to be the next line of support, to where we could get at least some kind of reaction out of here. It doesn't have to be a move that goes and breaks these highs, because we're unsure of the count here that we're going to continue to 14,000, but we can at least get some kind of nice reaction out of here, a bounce, you know, of 10% or more out of these support zones down here. But currently that's, you know, that could be a week out, a week or two out. So right now I'm just looking at this play right here, going back up into resistance at 11,060 to 11,160, somewhere in there. And so I'm going to be looking at that confluent area. I'll just drop back down to a lower time frame again. But that's essentially what I'm going to be looking for here, if we can get that move up so that I can short. We can take a look at ETH real quick too. Let's see. So ETH, you know, ETH is basically just rejected on that 618. We're putting in this nasty candle. To me, at this point, it looks like ETH is going to come back down. We're on a weekly chart here. I think ETH's going to have to come back down to that 21 week EMA right here. It's going to have to curl up like this, and we're going to have to get support back down here. So I could see ETH going back down to like low 300s, which would line up with this support right here that was resistance before, now it's support, and this EMA curl up. So I can see us coming back down into the 300s. And if we do that on ETH, I think that it's probable that Bitcoin can also go down. Whoops. I think that Bitcoin can also go down into at least this region down here after we fell to get back above this resistance right here, it could at least go down into here. So definitely the next play I'm looking for is a short here. Ideally we would have gotten in on a short right here if this would have bounced a little higher, but we didn't get that. Now we're down through support, it's resistance, we'll be looking to short right here. I think that covers it for today, and I will see you guys tomorrow.